So I'd like to welcome everyone to this community conversation. Wait 1 second here. Hang on 1 second. I think we hit our capacity, unfortunately, which is a 100. There's not something I didn't quite realize that we had, but we do. So we're going to have to deal with that, and people will have to catch the recording of this later. So I'd like to welcome everyone to this community conversation, which is presented by the Mad River Valley Chamber of Commerce. My name is Eric Friedman. I'm the executive director of the Chamber, and I'm pleased that so many folks in our community have joined in this evening. I was kind of worried about how many folks would join in, and we've actually hit our limit, which again, I didn't realize that Zoom had a limit, but we do. Maybe I didn't have the good enough plan. So I think folks are going to have to see this. People are going to have to see this on the recording later. We're going to be joined tonight by John Hammond from Sugarbush, who's the president there, Matt Lillard, the general manager of Mad River Glen, and Sean Kramer, who's the owner of the 1824 house. And he's going to be representing the Mad River Valley lodging establishments. And they're here to share with the Mad River community how they see the upcoming ski season going, what the operational plans look like, and the measures that are being taken to mitigate the impact of the community. This is going to be followed up by a Q&A session that I will moderate, hopefully successfully. I want folks to remember that, I come from the ski area background. I worked at Mad River Glen for a long time, and the ski area management and most all of their employees are also Mad River Valley residents, and that many of the lodge owners that Sean is representing tonight live in their establishments. It's their homes, and that they are every bit as concerned and protective of the Mad River Valley community and their safety as anyone else, and they feel a real deep sense of responsibility. Their goal is to make sure that community members understand the facts and know the mitigation measures that are being taken, and have an opportunity to express concerns and open up the dialogue. And I'm hopeful that this conversation will achieve those goals. So first, I'd like to leave it to open up to John Hammond to start, who's the president of Sugarbush, and kind of tell us what's going on with that. So I'll open it up to you, John.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Of course, anyone that lives within 100 miles of here knows what's been going on with the weather, which was a little bit crazy. It's we've had a couple inches of rain. The drought is over. That's the good news. But it's also been really warm. We've averaged, it was almost 42 degrees at the base area temps, and just over 30, like 32.7 for the month of November from our weather stations on the mountain. So we've had very few windows to make snow, but when we have done it, we've made good snow. I'll give you the lowdown on where it is, which is Upper Grinder, Jester, Downspout to Heaven's Gate. So that loop will be working once we finally get open. And then Allen's Traverse down Snowball Spring Fling so that we can run Valley House, Bravo to get out of the base area. And starting off, I think the first one of these a couple months ago, we talked about we really wanted to open up a lot of terrain and multiple places for people to spread out. Because like Eric said, we live here. We want to make sure we're doing it right. We're being safe. And we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to have a good experience and be spread out on the mountain. So in years past, we would have opened with downloading and really forced the skiing into to make it work for us. But this year we really feel like we need to spread everyone out and really take advantage of the natural ability of what skiing is, so that people stay away from each other and that side of it. So you probably, that's whatever, you mostly care about how it's going to affect you this winter. So let me get into that. Most of you probably have seen some of the blog posts and some of the other postings that have been on, but I think if you have gone anywhere in the valley or anywhere around Vermont, you'll notice that everyone's trying to do contactless payment. So really it's booking ahead of time, planning ahead of time, and really taking that and really, you buy your tickets ahead of time, you make a reservation, you don't just walk in and expect to be able to get dinner in town. So that's going to be the same thing at the mountain. We're limiting the number of tickets we're selling so that we can accommodate the number of season pass holders that we have. Because of that, I think one of the questions, which I'll just jump into, was, are we going to have a number that will say what that number is? Essentially, it's a busy Friday is about what the capacity limitation is. So a really good Friday is about what we're looking at for the number of people that we're peaking out at for what we're forecasting for tickets and for pass holders. So there's a good indication for you. Obviously, that's not a great financial model for the the resort or really the valley, but hopefully that's enough business that we all at least stay open and I think keep skiing on the forefront of people's minds and really be active in the community. So we've opened some of the other things that we've done is we basically have opened up some additional outlets, which is 802 Burritos, which is going to be in the old ticket windows out of the gatehouse. That's all pickup service, so you can eat out in the courtyard. We've bought additional picnic tables, installed outside heaters. So there'll be radiant heaters on the patio at Rumbles and on the patio outside the Gatehouse Lodge. We did a food truck, so that'll be down by the schoolhouse near the parking lot because unfortunately the parking lot and your car is kind of your base area this year. So we're asking people to start their day down in the parking lot, get booted up, travel up with their stuff on, and then they can get right on the lift. Access into the base lodges is really going to be at a minimum. The state guidance right now says that you can have, it's 3 different criteria. So you can have 50% of the fire code, 100 feet per person, or up to a maximum of 75 people in a space. So that really limits how you can operate. So what we've really done is in the base lodges, we've segregated the spaces. So the Mountain View room, which is the part of the gatehouse on the 2nd floor that's closest to the Bravo chair, all the doors are closed in there, so that's its own space. Then the main cafeteria area where the servery is a secondary space that will be serviced. That's how you get food out of the cafeteria. And then the sleeper room, which is off of that, will be just pickup. And that'll be pickup food that you order online. All of the food will be ordered online. Castle Rock Pub is its own space downstairs. The bathroom area is its own space. Mount Ellen, its 1st floor is its own space. 2nd floor, the own space. 3rd floor is on the north side, which is the side closest to the pond, closest to Mad River, that is going to be the warming area, and the other 2 parts of that base lodge on the 3rd floor are going to be part of the GML. I can keep going, or I can keep. Sure. The Glen House will be reservation only. The entire building is going to be set up as one location. Again, you're set at 50% fire code or 75 people max. Allen's Lodge this year, for the first time in my history, will be locked midweek since we cannot leave it open and still meet the guidelines. When you look at what the governors were supposed to be able to track who's coming to the mountain, who's in our buildings, how long they're in our buildings, and because of that, we won't be staffing that location in the event that people show up. So it'll only be open when we're running food service. The good news is that the skiing part of your day, the getting on the chair and riding around and having fun, should all be relatively simple and same with just fewer people out on the slopes. But, there will be, obviously, that's the other question that I was asked, is how are we going to survive or provide adequate spacing for the lift lines. So what we're going to be doing is setting up ghost lanes. So essentially it'll be similar to the early 90s when we did all call out, where essentially there'll be rows of people, no self-merging corrals. It'll be just rows with 6 feet of spacing in between each row. And that way we'll provide the spacing. Front to back, I feel like, most people have figured that part out. I know that in Mahirans and, or in town, people, will occasionally get crowd on you. You kind of ask them to step back and they do. So hopefully that'll be the case, but we will have people at the lift loading areas to really help with that and try to encourage the safe distancing. We also have mask zones. So basically everyone in the base areas, you're required to wear a mask unless you're eating, actively eating and seated. So feel like that's enough talking. It's 7:10. I'll turn it on to somebody else. Other way around, Eric. You were.
Sorry. Thanks so much, John. I really appreciate your time tonight and for all the information. Stick around. There's lots of questions coming in. And I'll turn it over to Matt Lillard, General Manager at Mad River Glen.
Thanks, Eric. And yeah, thanks, John, for running through it. I think obviously all the ski areas follow under the same guidance. So I'm going to try not to kind of go through all the nitty gritty of that. John explained a lot of what the requirements are. But I just want to kind of try to give people a taste of what we're trying to do at Mad River and how that's going to look. So John didn't really speak to it much, but there was an article in the most recent Valley Reporter that got some information from both Sugarbush and I, John and I, about the attestation that the state has required that we are asking of all of our pass holders and our day ticket holders. And that is a big part of our way and the state's way to inform people of the travel policies and restrictions regarding the state and what they need to do to come and enjoy our ski areas. And for those that don't know, in its simplest form, it's a pledge or an attestation that says they have made themselves aware of and will follow the Vermont travel guidelines, whether they are Vermont residents or they are going to quarantine for 2 weeks or 7 days and test out before they come to the ski area. So we are getting that from all of our pass holders, and then anytime anybody buys a lift ticket, they'll be doing the same thing. And so far our response has been really good. I don't know obviously John's numbers, but 75% of our pass holders so far are either Vermont residents or they have moved to Vermont for the season. And 13% of those have a plan to deal with the quarantine. And another 10% plus are asked for refunds so far. I expect those numbers to fluctuate. But it's a pretty good indication that I think a lot of the people that really want to ski are either Vermont residents or making plans to do it safely and to be in Vermont and to quarantine accordingly and make their season happen. So it's been really helping to get that information and get it out there and inform people. And I think a lot of people are learning whether they think this is really new or it started back in June. It's a really good way for us to get out there and really hammer home that this is a thing. It's not what your state rules are. It's what Vermont's rules are, and people need to follow it. So from there, once they get to the ski area, we are under the same rules, like I mentioned, as the rest of the ski areas. The big thing really around our base box, our base lodge, is in a lodge built in 1949 and expanded upon. Trying to get one-way traffic and capacity limits and how to space people in chairs has been a massive jigsaw puzzle. Luckily, we've got a renovation going on this summer. Without that, we'd be pretty much dead in the water for a lot of our building because there's only one way in or out. But the main entrance to our lodge will be the way in, and you're either going to go upstairs and to warm up, change your boots. We are hoping to be able to let people leave bags. To back up a little bit, now it's a 4-level operating plan that we'll be announcing this week that'll outline all of these things that will change throughout the year based on what's going on. But we're hoping if we were to open today, we'd allow people to go in, change their boots if they need to, leave their boot bag and come back at another time, but to limit their time in the lodge and then go out a separate entrance. They'll be going in the base box, and then if they want to go downstairs to the bathrooms, they can use those, and then they have to exit the building, and if they want to come back in, they have to come all the way back up and around. But it's the way to avoid crossing traffic in a very tight area. We're also developing and having built right now a snack shack. Most likely a sip-in snack shack that'll sit out by our flagpole in the base area. And that is where all of our cafeteria food will be based out of. There'll be no food service in our building at all. People will be able to go there, grab a breakfast sandwich, grab a whole slew of different items, and either go inside, get on the chairlift, go back to their car, go home, do anything they want from there. But it'll all be to-go food based out of an outside area. And then we'll have our pub, which will run just like a restaurant, like the other restaurants do in town, under those same guidelines. Skiing, as we mentioned, we will be spacing our lines out as well. So obviously our single chair, we are in a unique advantage over most ski areas, and that we're set up well for this. So we'll just, between each zigzagging row will be 6 feet. And then on our double chairs will be, we joke, we used to have a lift attendant who, when he set up the lines, would either set up 5 or 7. And we never really knew why. And it always made it a real cluster when people got near the front. So we just imagine having 7 lines with 2 of them being empty, or 3 of them being empty, to space out the 4. And we'll do that amongst all of our 4 lifts. So it'll kind of look like there's a lot of people around the base area, but ultimately, we are planning to open the season at 50% capacity. We are selling very, very little lift tickets to start. We had a very strong season past season. Like a lot of people are, as I said, made arrangements to ski and are planning on coming up. We're hoping to get to 75% capacity as the season moves on, and hopefully, conditions get better in Vermont from a pandemic standpoint. But it could get worse, in which case we might go all the way down to just passengers and charters at Mad River, and that's our code red scenario. So hopefully we don't get there. Outside of that, we're planning on trying to do a limited number of rentals in a small space. Everything is advanced purchase only, reservation only. One group at a time in most of our areas like that. 4 people at a time in our general store, which can scale down to curbside only if as needed. And kind of doing all the other things we're used to around town. All of our staff, we're one of the things we're doing at Mad River. We are not allowing staff any ability to exempt out of any travel restrictions, whether they're considered essential or otherwise, which has been a tough one. But we are lucky with a pretty local workforce, and the majority wanted it to be that way, and they felt more comfortable working in an environment where they can trust where everybody's coming from. So we are taking that stance as well. And then lots of PPE for everybody and hand sanitizer all over the place. We've converted part of our daycare building into the logistics and storage, so our staff can go in there and get cases of hand sanitizer and Clorox spray and all the things that go with it. So it's going to be interesting, and we're hoping winter turns around and we get off and going.
Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate the time and all the information. And just want to point out before we get on to Sean, I'm really apologizing that I didn't quite realize that we had a participant limit, and my phone is blowing up and my email is blowing up, and I'm trying to keep track of everything here. And I know a lot of people are disappointed that they couldn't join in on this conversation, but it is being recorded and it is on YouTube. If you can help spread the word, it's on channel 244 on the Mad River Valley cable, and it's also on the Mad River Valley Chamber, or on the Mad River Valley YouTube channel, and I believe on the Mad River Valley Television YouTube channel. So if you can let people know that as I'm dealing with this, I would really appreciate that, helping get the word out as a community, which is great. I'm going to turn it next to Sean Kramer. Sean and his wife Farrell are the owners of the 1824 House Inn. They have years and years of lodging experience, and they moved here to the Valley a couple of years ago and have really dove into the lodging community, which I want you to be aware is the lodging community meets every week, every Thursday, and they're getting together, and it's really been a valuable, it's been a very valuable time spent because, and I really get the amount of concern that they have. It's been a very valuable time. I'm sorry, I'm losing myself here. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean. I'm sorry, my audio is a little messed up here. So Sean Kramer from 1824 House.
All right. Well, thanks, Eric. And first, I'd just like to, thank John and Matt for, taking the time here, but also including the lodging community. We're definitely gonna be working hand in hand with these guys through this winter. Not that we don't in the past years, but I think this one will be even a little more different. But, throughout this pandemic, the Mad River Valley lodging community has really been working together to educate the public and act as a safety ambassadors for our communities and the state of Vermont. We've had to have these forms signed this whole time that we've been open to out-of-state visitors. Since we've been able to accept guests from outside the state, we've enforced the rules regarding quarantining, testing, and the compliance, the same forms and attestation that the ski resorts are going to have to do. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy, and it won't be easy. Looking ahead, though, we're hopeful for a strong ski season, but we really know it can only happen if we all work together and have open communication through all the businesses, the community itself. Along with limiting tickets, amenities, altering all their operations, the resorts are now required to have these Daily Skiers and Borders attest to compliance with the state travel restrictions. And it's not easy. I know they're doing everything they can, and we appreciate it. It's helping spread the word to more people throughout the area, that it's not just lodging community having to do it. So we actually, kind of appreciate it, even though we know it's really difficult. But all these factors will affect the lodging industry in the Valley. We'll again be tasked with educating the public on the ever-changing rules. Most of those rules are pretty detrimental to our businesses, so it's not something that we take lightly. It's very difficult, but we believe, we're part of the core of our communities, and we need to do this to keep ourselves and our neighbors safe. So we've been doing it since the beginning, and we plan on continuing to do it. So the lodging community, we really plan to work with John and Matt and all the staff and volunteers at both resorts to make this the best season we can. And, if anyone has, comments or questions later, that's fine. I'm happy to answer more specifics, but that's really, I think, for the lodging community. We just want to make sure everyone knows that we're doing what we can for the community. And we really look forward to working with the resorts to just do everything we can to make it work for everybody.
Thanks so much, Sean. I really appreciate your time as well. And I'm going to try to open it up to some questions right now. I got a bunch of questions prior to the meeting, and some are directed to certain people and some are kind of generic. So Matt and John and Sean, I might ask you to jump in when you can. The first question is for John Hammond. Given existing pass sales and online pre-purchase tickets only in limited quantity, they assume, how much of a reduction in daily capacity, daily ski visits, do you anticipate versus a nice weekend powder day or a sunny holiday with good snow in the past? In other words, the more crowded days.
Yeah. So, sorry, I kind of jumped on that one when you sent it to me earlier. So that was the two questions I knew about. So yeah, like I said earlier, it's probably going to be about, we've set our capacity limit on about a busy Friday. What you would expect if you had been on a good Friday at Sugarbush, that is what we're looking to have as our capacity for the whole mountain. Obviously, that capacity changes with the amount of terrain we have open. So right now, the capacity is much lower than that. But as we get into full operations, that Friday that I'm talking about, in the middle of February would be about what we're looking at.
Okay, thanks, John. This is Sarah asked a question on the group chat, and I think this is, I've heard this from lots of people, so I'm going to ask this, and I know it's a tough one. Why are you encouraging / inviting people to visit the Mad River Valley this winter when the Vermont Department of Health and the CDC have issued travel advisories against non-essential travel, including locally, even within the state? Residents of Vermont aren't supposed to be traveling even outside their local area except for essential reasons. So out-of-state visitors aside, why are we encouraging people from outside the Mad River Valley to travel from elsewhere to ski at Sugarbush and Mad River?
Well, it's a reasonable question.
Yeah. Who do you want to answer that? Matt, you're going to take that one?
I'll start, and you can jump in, John and Sean. But Eric and I talked about this. John and I have talked about this. I mean, all businesses have that involve people traveling, whether they're from, just outside the valley, coming from 10 minutes away, 20 minutes away, 2 hours away, what have you. And it's one of those, I feel really strongly that for the health of our own valley residents, I know my children, among many other people in the valley, need an outlet in a long winter. I use the analogy, I've lived in Alaska for 6 years where it's dark, and I would not have lived there without a ski area. A winter in Vermont is dark. I think we all felt it last March and April when everything really shut down, what feeling cooped up can be like. And I really feel strongly that from a mental health standpoint and the ability to get outside, we need outside recreation and, alpine skiing, Nordic snowboarding obviously falls in that category, is a big part of that. So, I think it's a sport that can be done safely. I think we've got the measures in place to do it. And, that's our goal, is to run a safe operation and enable people to get outside and recreate. And that's our key facet of how we're operating. As far as the current status and the traveling, it's confusing. clear as mud, as they say, as far as the guidance from the state and how that works and how it meshes across different sectors and how everything works. And I don't have good answers there, I'll be honest. And John and Sean jump in after this, but that's really what we look at it at Mad River, is that we need an outlet. We feel we can be, the ski areas can be good ones. We are regulated businesses, as the governor and others have indicated. Over 71% of recent cases are not in regulated businesses. These are happening in places where people don't have to follow rules to be there. And I know at Mad River, John and I have talked, and I know at Sugarbush, it's a follow the rules or you're not skiing there. It's not debatable. Masks aren't debatable. These things aren't debatable. They have the choice to go somewhere else, and we'll make sure they know that. And so that's why we want to be open and recreate.
Matt, let me just jump in here. The lodging community has talked a lot about this, you guys have as well. And we've been dealing with this dilemma of how to invite people to our homes safely. We've always worked within the regulations we were given by the state. They are ever changing, but we had to work within those. And the way we looked at it is we just had to educate the people and make sure that the people that are traveling here are doing it properly. We don't want to discourage people from coming to the state. We want to encourage them to do it properly, which is with quarantining, whether it be the 2 weeks, 14 days, or the 7 days and get a negative test. That's what the rules are requiring, and that's what we're pushing for. Yes, it's possible people can and will lie to you guys, to us. There's no way for us to govern it that way unless the state's going to shut their borders, which they're obviously not doing. But we're all trying to, run our businesses within the rules and do it as safe as possible for our community, for our neighbors, for our employees. That's what we're dealing with. And I'm like Matt, I've got a child who's in school. I want him to actually go to school more than 2 days a week. So and I'm hoping it doesn't go backwards here. So we do everything we can to make sure that we can do it, that we're educating the people who are coming to ski or visit the area in any way. So that's where we are as a lodging community.
Yeah, I would just add on to that, or agree with you on that. We're seeing that where people follow the rules, there hasn't been problems, and that's the mask wearing and the distancing and really being outside. So, I think that is something that we're all in favor of and really feel like can work properly, and that, we're willing to take on the challenge to make it work. And, that's the way businesses have been operating this summer all along. And as the fall has gone in, it's not really the visitors that are coming to Vermont, it's us Vermonters that are having it. I mean, we're seeing it in town as it is, and this can't be blamed on the ski areas or on the traveling community. This is our local community ourselves that are doing this. So where we're seeing is these outbreaks and the spikes in COVID are from when people aren't following the rules. So, I think, we're going to do that. We're pretty strict about what we're having our employees do. And, I think that, it should hopefully be something that we can pull off. And I think we're all in it. We're all going to try.
Great, thank you. Like I said, we're trying to be really honest and upfront with the questions and try to deal with them as they're coming in. Please, I'm getting a lot from one or two individuals on the chat. If there's other people that have other questions, please get them to put them on the chat, and I will make sure that they get asked. John Hammond, someone wanted to know how many of your pass holders at Sugarbush are Vermont residents versus not, and how are you certain that these people who are inviting from out of state to the Mad River Valley this winter to ski will tell the truth about quarantining?
So I can tell you that we have no idea who's our pass holder or not. With the Icon Pass, we only know who they are once they've been to our pass. Once they've been at Sugarbush, then they become a Sugarbush customer. But I can tell you that we've blacklisted, we've basically deactivated all of the Icon passes and all of our local passes. And people need to go online and fill out this attestation that Matt talked about. And they have to go through that and basically attest that they're following the guidelines, and then we will reactivate the pass. And anyone that buys a ticket has to do the same thing. So sorry to actually have a percentage number for you, but that's how we're handling it.
Great. Thanks, John. And, maybe Matt, you can answer this as a follow-up. And I think this is a big question that a lot of people have. So what happens if people say they have quarantine, but in fact have not, just so they can go ski? How does that get monitored, or does it?
We wouldn't know. I mean, we're not enforcement agencies. We don't want to be. That's not why people work in a ski area. We don't have the power to be, and so we are asking them, and it ultimately comes down to what it has, since June when this map came out. It's on their honor, for lack of a better way to say it. The ski industry guidance does have a clause that we have to make sure all of our skiers are aware of, that they can have their skiing privileges revoked if they are found to not be following that guidance. I don't know if the lodging industry has that. If they do, we might be the only two industries in the whole state that have such a thing. But to be honest, I don't think any ski area president or GM knows what that even looks like if it ever came to be. So the short answer is we won't know. We're asking them, before they come up, to comply, to inform themselves and comply, and that's the best we can do. We will be tracing everybody. I did see a question come across about that. So, I know for the bigger areas that have had RFID ticketing systems over the past couple of years, this is a fairly easy thing to do. I shouldn't say that because I don't really know, but I'm sure it's easier than what we're going through. But for an area that physically looked at paper tickets for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years to somehow now figure out who's on the mountain has been a massive undertaking in about 3 weeks. But we will be scanning all of our tickets and passes this year, so we'll have a list of who's actually on the mountain each day, which we do have to keep for 30 days.
Another question that I saw come up, and I'm getting a lot of questions about it too, is how are the ski areas going to be handling the uphill travel issue prior to opening, before they open at Mad River, and generally that's a big topic of conversation. Because I heard AT sales are really big this year.
Yeah, and that's why we don't have any snow right now. No.
Yeah, I think the snow might be taking care of that problem.
Yeah. I can tell you, as of right now, we're not looking at changing our policies. I think we allow it when we have the capacity to allow safe travel during, on the mountain. We don't want it to be interfering when we're making snow. I'm sure Matt doesn't want someone skiing over the fan gun outlet as they're, because they want to get that one bit of snow that's out there right now. And, we do have guidelines that allow for it to happen but it's really once we're open and operating. Yeah, there's a tough part of that is technically we're supposed to be tracking everybody that's on the mountain, and they didn't really specify that it was during your operating hours or not. So, that might be a good question to ask if we can even allow it with the state.
Yeah. John has happily closed his early season, so I'm finding them at Mad River. So our policy is not. We Mad River instituted a new policy last year, and we as well are not changing it for the current situation. So people until we open are allowed to skin any time of the day. We ask that they be considerate and be reasonable and understand where they are. And also, but there are no services. So there is no ski patrol. There's no operations that they can rely on when they're up there. When we do open, we will be allowing uphill travel to shareholders and pass holders on a dedicated route once we start operating, which was new to us last year that we never got off the ground before we shut down in March. And then, before and after operating hours during the season will be the same as it always has been, with the exception of no dogs from opening day until closing day.
Cats okay, Matt?
What's that?
Are the cats okay?
Cats are fine.
Okay, just want to make sure. This question came for John, but I think I'd be interested in hearing Matt's opinion on this as well. So ski areas how are ski areas visits going to be managed to the 50% capacity, and our reservations going to be required?
Yeah. So we are not requiring reservations, and we don't have a capacity limit on. No ski area is dictated to have a restriction on the number of people they can have on the mountain. It's left up to the areas to decide what they feel is comfortable for what their uphill capacity is or what their carrying capacity is. What we did is we took a look at our uphill capacity, our trail makeup, and what we thought we would have open during certain days of the year. And that's how we set the number of tickets that would be available. Doesn't mean that on one day we couldn't see a huge influx of pass holders, the perfect storm. No, but ultimately we don't anticipate, with all the travel restrictions, we're seeing a lot of emails just like Matt, about people asking for refunds and not understand. My favorite are the emails that I get, like, I don't know if you know this, but your governor does not allow me to come to your state. And it's like, what? When did that happen? So, we do see that there are honest people here that are telling us that it's not going to work for them and they're not going to come. So we're going to see what it looks like. But really, our one lever that we're pulling is the number of day tickets. And it's a pretty drastic lever that we're pulling, because it normally would be a large percentage of our visits. And right now we don't have that many available.
Yeah, I think I mentioned the 50% or 75%, and that's a number that we use internally at Mad River as far as our different operating levels go. And our lever is the same as John's. We are not requiring reservations. We feel pretty strongly that Seasons Pass is exactly that and gives you access. So we came out with that early on and want to stick by that. So it'll be lack of selling lift tickets, which is a monstrous financial hit, and one that we can only hope is the better choice in the end. But we are talking pitifully low lift ticket availability on weekends to start the season. To the point that I question why we're even going to go through the trouble of selling them, but we're kind of.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Christina contacted us and said, can you all, Sugarbush, Mad River Glen, the lodges, survive without out of state revenue? And I think this is the business question is a real important one. How are you guys viewing this? I know Matt and we've talked about this quite a bit, and it's a pretty tough situation for a lot of businesses around here. How are you guys viewing it?
I can tell you we're not looking at a very profitable year, at a profit this year. So
can we survive? No. Without out-of-state traffic, the lodges overall cannot survive. It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's looking at the season from a financial, not even a break even. It's how can we limit the losses? And it's been nice to see the support we've seen from Seasons Pass sales, and especially so far to such a large percentage of people that are either in the area or plan on moving to it. So it'll be interesting to manage our way through it, but we'll survive. I just haven't figured out how yet. I'll tell you in April.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things, here at the Chamber of Commerce, we've been working really closely with our local businesses, the ski areas, the lodges, the restaurants, all the different sectors. And, I think, and Sean, you can add to this. If it was not for the federal programs and the state aid that came through those and through the CARES Act, I'm not sure a lot of our businesses would be here today. And I'm really scared about, what's going on with the federal government now, because if there's not more aid coming, there are businesses that are not going to make it. And that's very, very clear. So, I really encourage you, it's a sobering thought. It really is. I'm talking to business owners all the time, and, I literally in tears every day. And it's a really tough thing to deal with. And, they're relying on this aid coming from the government. So, Sean, do you want to add anything to that? Because Sean's been really involved in the lobbying effort on behalf of this.
So, is the grant money coming from the state, which is technically a federal grant, is been extremely important to the lodging community. I know that. The amounts are varied, but the state legislature is really trying to get the money out to the businesses. And hopefully this last round of grants at least will get us through January for a lot of us. A lot of the lodges are kind of going month to month right now, trying to stay afloat. And obviously the weather's not helping us. All the restrictions are tough for us, but we've been dealing with them for 9 months now. So we're continuing to deal with them. Hopefully the federal government will come through and help us out if this gets even worse this winter. There's not an answer for it, unfortunately, but I do know, we are relying on that federal aid right now is definitely the only way that's keeping a lot of us afloat. With that, I do see a question that came through though that I just thought I'd speak to, and someone asking if the lodges have thought about offering like 2 to 4 week stays to try to get that quarantining is what I'm assuming they're really looking for. And it does work for some places. It doesn't for others. Depends on how we're set up, whether you have kitchen capacity to utilize that, be able to utilize by the guests. Personally, we actually worry about when you have someone coming up for, say, a month and they say they've quarantined before they've come up, but then they're up here and they drive off and you don't see them for 2 days. Where did they go? Did they go back home? They then come back. Well, that's not quarantining. And you can't keep an eye on them 24/7. So it's difficult that way as well. So every lodge has been working on different ways of making money, different sources of revenue. But each place is a little different. It's not always as simple as just, hey, can we do this? It doesn't always work out.
Okay. One person was asking, is there a way that local skiers can help to make the employees at River Glen and Sugarbush feel safe?
I think if, for us, I would imagine it's going to be the same for all of the businesses in town. It's like, if you can follow the rules, wear your mask, keep your distance, be polite, be courteous. People can tell when you're smiling behind that mask, even though my daughter thinks if she squints, it pretends like she's smiling. We think she's smiling. We can tell. So, I think as long as people can be courteous, polite, and, respectful of what's going on, that's going to be the best thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the other thing is realize that decisions being made and how, we're operating are not our line employees' decisions. John and I and the owners of businesses, we're responsible for managing these places and handing down the way we're going to operate. So going to a lift attendant or somebody in the rental shop and flipping out or complaining about something, or even trying to convince them that they're doing it wrong is not going to help.
John, one of the things that I've heard from, I got a questions that, very, very verbose. And, I think, basically the line of questioning is they're questioning Sugarbush's communications and why it's not on, things aren't on the homepage and things like that. And the way you're communicating. I don't want to go through it. It's literally a page long. And I'd like to get a sense of, how you're viewing the communications and why you're doing what you're doing and all of that.
Sure. I think right off the bat, we put right on our homepage, right on the very first screen when you log on to our website, there was a COVID-19 rules and guidelines button, and so we did that. Also on our app, it's the same thing. COVID-19 button is right there. The tough part about it for all of us is that, the rules keep changing. At 5 o'clock today, Molly sent out a lovely email with the most recent changes of what's going on from the state. So, I think part of the reason that we don't have it, part of the reason we have it as a link is that it's a living document that we're moving on and trying to correct and keep current. And, if I check the website every day, I don't need to scroll through that to get to the next page. I feel like for the most part, we have been extremely transparent and open about what the policies are and how we're doing it. So I guess I'm not exactly sure what someone is looking for. So.
Yep. And then this was a question that just was texted to me. Lodges and ski areas are doing the best they can. What about Airbnb? How can we make sure those individuals are following the rules? I don't know if this is something for maybe Sean wants to take a stab at, because I know this has been a big topic of conversation.
It is a big topic. Education. We can keep telling people over and over and over that it doesn't matter whether they stay in a lodge, an Airbnb, they're a second homeowner. It's coming to Vermont that you need to do the quarantining. And there's, people can argue about whether people should go to an Airbnb or not. That's not the point here. It's the fact that we just have to educate the people to do what's right. And if they do what's right, then the lodging will work out, the skiing should work out. But it's getting the people to educating them so they can do what's right. And that's in the long run, that's all we can do as a tourism industry. So we're kind of stuck on it, unfortunately.
John or Matt, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, I think that's it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the businesses that are here that are managed by people that live in the community are doing the right thing. And, we're hoping that, the people that own these second homes are going to realize that they are community members as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to go through these questions. There's a lot of comments, and I'm trying to get through them because there were a fair number of comments that I'm having trouble with. There have been a couple of questions about ski school procedures, and I know that they've been spelled out on the Mad River and Sugarbush websites. Do you guys want to speak to that a little bit, and how you're running different programs, either seasonal or dailies?
Sure. So that was the email that came out today. Was basically the state is asking us to, we were complying by our ski area restart plan, which was submitted back in September or October, got approved in November. What came out on the 20th, what came out today was essentially they're asking ski school to comply by rule 8.1, which is close contact activity. So it just changes it's the moving target of what we need to do. So we will comply by rule 8.1. How we're going to do that, I haven't figured out the mechanism that we're going to, since it's 2.5 hours old, what we're going to be doing. But essentially, we started off right away by saying we weren't doing group lessons. We weren't doing our seasonal program because a large number of people come from out of state, and we didn't feel that it was going to be something that could work for us. So we said, look, we'll do private lessons, we'll do groups if you can put your own cohort together. And that was the term, 3 weeks ago, cohort was a reasonable thing to do. You decided who was in your bubble, and that's how it worked. So that was what we were going with. Seems like as of today, we're going to be going to rule 8.1, which means it has to be family member or family household group is the term. So we'll be adjusting our procedures to make sure that we comply with the 8.1. And, it doesn't mean in 2 weeks that won't change again. So, and we're going to have to adjust again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, as a former ski area communications person, it's always been challenging to communicate generally. And I appreciate how much things have been changing. All summer long, we've been dealing with this with the lodges and other business sectors. And, frankly, a lot of the business sectors have been hammering the state saying, hey, can you be more clear with this? We don't exactly know what you mean by that. So it is hard. And then again, in fairness, you have to look at what the state is trying to do. They're trying to do their job. They're trying to keep everybody safe. They're trying to play a lot of, making sure that they're dealing with all the different sides of everything. And there's a lot of unintended consequences. So they're moving quickly, and it all funnels down the line. So I think it's a tough thing. There's another question that came in for Sugarbush, especially not knowing where Icon pass holders are coming from and what days they're planning to visit. Why have you not implemented a restricted reservation system, which was recommended but not required by the state, when other large comparable resorts, Killington and Stowe, have gone above and beyond the state guidelines?
So changing the mechanism in which someone skis there doesn't really affect their compliance with the rules. So, I mean, I could make a reservation at Killington and be in Hawaii, and they're going to say, okay, when I make the reservation, they're going to say, have you met the guidelines? The answer is sure. And so, it's just a different way to do it. What we thought, and I believe it's what Matt thought, is that our pass holders are they're our core group, and they're the people we want to make sure are able to get up here and ski and recreate, and, or maybe are living in town and doing that. But, they're the people that we're focused on. We don't want to put any burdens on them. There are the people that identify as Mad River Valley skiers. So that's why we're doing it with the ticket sales. Matt, you have a different opinion?
Nope. I would agree. I think it's, granted, I will say a lot, as John just alluded to and everybody knows, things change so drastically, and you're trying to set policy when we're selling passes in July, September, August, September, and October. I don't think any of us thought we'd be where we are right now. Locked down to just households and and getting a different ruling today on something we planned on, 2 days ago to be different. But I don't think that would, like John said, that would not have changed what we would have done at Mad River. We value our pass holders and our shareholders, among all others, and we want to make sure that they're getting access to their mountain that they've supported all these years.
Yeah, excellent. We're starting to wind down. I was hoping to keep this to about an hour. I think I've gotten through most of the questions that have come in online. And so if anyone has any other questions, please, put them in the chat now. One question that has not, and I'm not sure if you asked this, if anyone's been answered this, and I was kind of curious about this one myself. Can you explain the lift corral plan for the major lifts so that folks can physically distance themselves the minimum of 6 feet, front to back and side to side? Clearly on crowded days, the base area was tight as it was. Will spreading out the lines pose a problem? And I was thinking about this, Matt, from a Mad River perspective with the single, and the boys must be having a hard time trying to figure out how to do those corrals, because they always had a hard time with it anyway.
Yeah, I think we spoke to it a little bit at the beginning, but I hate to say it, it's a keep it simple, stupid philosophy. Just put 6 feet between the rows, and it'll be really wide. And back in the day, I always hear stories about the single chair line being up one side, across the front, down the back, the other side, and so it'll do that this year. And I think the same. John would have the same answer. We're just putting dummy rows in. And front to back is pretty self-explanatory. With skis on, no bladers are too close. We don't allow that. But
we looked at going to Kenyans and getting some water line and making a 12-foot hoop with suspenders, but we thought that would probably be more of a hazard than an effective way to do it.
Yeah.
So some other questions have been coming in. Will equipment services and stores be open for renting equipment, sharpening edges, buying new equipment, things like that?
So at Mad River, if we were to open today, we would not be renting skis daily. We're actually opening up season rentals, so people in the valley, especially without the Waitsfield Ski and Skate sale happening in its traditional format. If you're looking for a way to get yourself or especially your children seasonal rental and have missed the boat at other areas, we're offering that, a little sales pitch. But the tune shop will be open. It'll just be one of those things, one group or one person at a time. And we hope to at some point open up daily rentals with reservation, but we're not there yet.
And we're doing rentals. It's reservation only, and it's book in advance. And then basically you'll get a text. You'll text us when you're on property with
Hammond
here, and then we will send a text when your equipment's ready to come pick it up. Limited access into the rental shop.
Fancy little shirt on. Jeez, John, yeah.
Have you considered a soft closing should conditions warrant, allowing only skiing for local skiers if the state shuts down further?
Sorry, I was distracted by the shirt comment.
Oh. Yeah, we were surprised that you were wearing one.
Was that you?
Can people please mute? Folks, have you considered a soft closing should conditions warrant, allowing only skiing for local skiers if the state shuts down further?
I mean, Mad River, we have a code red, which is just pass holders and shareholders. And I'd imagine at code red, I don't know what the state travel restrictions look like, but they wouldn't be kind. That being said, last spring, both at the time Wynn, I'm sure John was in on the conversation, tried to encourage or only have skinning for, I forget how we said it, Valley area residents. And I don't know about you, John, my email blew up with people from Bristol.
Yeah.
How dare you? That's a tough one. You know, who's to say who's local? Waterbury, Moortown is just as close as Bristol. And the other side, you know, I don't know. I don't see us going, I don't know how you go hyper local.
Yeah. I think we are flexible, and we will try to react to whatever guidelines and things we need to do to comply with what's going on in the state, and really do the best thing for the community. We know what's the best thing for the community is. And that was when, you know, when you talk about the skinning in the end of the season, when we saw that we were the last two areas that were sort of allowing it in the state, that's when we had the conversation and said, look, we need to shut this down, because people were coming from all over New England. And so we made the call and put the press release out together on that. So we'll do what we can.
I just want to make sure that those of us in Moortown, that you realize that, you know, we are part of the Valley, right? Just want to make sure. This is an interesting question. Mark asks, given financial challenges, should we expect the use of snowmaking and grooming will be much more limited than normal?
Well, snowmaking, yes, only because of the temperatures. I can tell you we've made snow at stupid temperatures to try and get terrain open right now. We're looking at a full staff of grooming, full fleet of snowmakers that are out there making snow every chance we can. And we're going to try and, get the key for us is to spread the crowds out and make sure people can do that. So that's our plan.
Same. We're not anticipating any less of either. You know, I think for ski areas, just like other businesses, like one of our biggest hurdles this season will be, you know, if or when we get contact traced or have potential exposures, and what that means for staffing. We don't have backups upon backups to bring in, and I could see us cutting back on a grooming route or two if we're short on groomers, but it wouldn't be because we chose to.
One of the questions that has come up, and I've heard from a couple of people about how Ski Patrol will be working, and how that's going to work. And also, a question just came in from Sarah about skiing putting a burden on our local ambulance service and our local hospitals tonight need to prioritize COVID cases. How is the Ski Patrol thing, and what's your response to that criticism? About, because we do get a lot of ambulances coming out of the Valley, unfortunately, heading to the hospital with ski injuries.
Yeah, I saw there was a question else about training, so I can just go over that. I think the National Ski Patrol put out an online training that went on. At Sugarbush, we also did an outside on-hill refresher that we did with people where they went to, socially distanced stations, small groups. I think the good news for the patrollers is, you can't be in the shack. We've limited the amount of time that you can sit in there and the number of people that can be in the patrol huts. So they're going to be out on the hill a lot more. The clinic setups are different. I think we have 7 beds in our clinic, including the Fletcher Allen space, since Fletcher Allen's not going to be there, or University Medical Center is not going to be there. You're
dating yourself, John.
I know. Lisa's not going to be in the back. Oh wait, no. So yeah, there's a different setup. Mount Ellen, I think, is just down to three spots. So, we've changed the layout. We're going to be doing a lot more first aid outside. They're going to have chairs set up outside the clinic. The key, just like the hospitals, you don't bring them into the space. You treat as much as you can outside where it's safe. And then the answer, I think, for part of that for the ambulances, there are going to be critical patients. There are going to be accidents that happen. The medical service, these guys have been, doing a great job all summer long, keeping themselves safe. When you think about the number of COVID cases that have been reported in the Valley, it hasn't been from the ambulance. It's, these guys have been out there doing the job and really being important members of the community, and they've done it safely. So,
Anything you want to add there, Matt?
A lot of the same basic protocols at Mad River. I think, one of the things I want to stress is that, before we decided way back in June or July that we're going to make a go of this thing, as managers, of any business, we're going to our employees and saying, what do you need to feel comfortable to work here this year? And, ski patrol, and I went to ski patrol, lifts, and our lift ticket people, because those are the three I need to open. The rest doesn't have to exist. And said, I will get you whatever you need to feel comfortable. And that's what we've done. So, they've got all the PPE they need. They've got processes where they can feel comfortable. And, if our staff came and said, we can't do it, we'd be in a different conversation. But, as residents of Vermont in the area, they feel strongly about being open and do it. So we want to make sure we give them a chance.
Wear your mask until you go in the water, and then you take it out, take it off when you're in, and then you put it back on as you leave.
As soon as you walk out. And
Please mute whoever's talking right now.
Or pull buoy, and then all they do is ask you to, there's a green bin that they'll say sanitize,
Yeah.
and they clean it off when you're done.
okay, and how about you can take a shower?
good idea.
Whoever's not muted, can you please mute yourself so we can finish this up?
I feel like the only thing I
Eric, mute them. Hit the
dry your hair.
Is this Eric? Wait, where?
Fine, Sue.
No.
All right, well, I'll ask
Well, I think-
Thursday then. Thanks again.
Well, folks, I think we've gotten through most of the questions. Right click on the microphone. Hang on a second.
Oh, you're not swimming Thursday.
I'm
Okay.
not swimming Thursday.
No, no
I'm
swimming.
47, so I'm hanging out with
God.
my monsters here.
Okay.
But
So you
I'll be there
and-
another day. But
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with this. I can't do it.
But,
Eric,
Jim,
Denny,
the
over.
only thing I say too is like,
Denny, be quiet.
you know how they have a handicap stairway kind of at the
Oh my
Johnson
God.
Citywide?
Yeah,
So I don't recommend
I'm
it.
trying to find her.
Very narrow, and
Yeah.
you never remove the stairs. So the earlier you get on deck, you can flip the lane you want. But I would normally swim
Lord.
with you, but I just am taking that day off. So.
okay, well, but you have to book it 2 days in advance, so
Yeah.
I could have booked.
So I'm sorry, folks.
Right?
I think we should probably say goodbye, but I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, Matt and Sean and John. We're
Okay,
gonna
so you
have
gotta
this,
do 3 days in advance.
We will have this recorded, so we can all hear Denny's conversation again. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
yeah,
for
right,
joining
today
us, and
is
I'll talk to you all soon.
Tuesday. I got my days.
Take care, folks.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everybody.